wow, what do you know? It's time for the Pocket Knife Show. Hey, it's Mike on the mic again for another episode of the Pocket Knife Podcast. A few weeks ago, my wife and I got to do a bit of desert hiking with some of her high school classmates and a spouse or two of theirs. The RVA class of '84 was gathered in sunny Scottsdale, Arizona for their 40th reunion, and a dozen people met up at 6:45 to tackle Dixie Peak, which tops out at 2,429 feet above sea level. Not a monster of a mountain for sure, but in the desert, challenge enough. It was 89 degrees when we started, and the temps climbed as we did. Since we'd driven our car from Kansas to be at the reunion, my wife and I had a cooler full of water in our trunk. We handed out bottles to those who wanted it, and Propel powder to replace lost electrolytes along the way. A few refused both offerings. They didn't think they needed water for such a short hike. "Are you sure you don't want any?" I asked, hoping they'd change their minds. One might have taken a bottle, maybe two. I grabbed my backpack, filled it full of water and Propel packets, and hung it over my shoulders. I wasn't going to be caught out under the blazing sun lacking water enough to keep me, my wife, and her friends alive. Here's what I've learned about hiking in arid places. The super dry air sucks the water out of your body, dehydrating you far faster than what you're used to in more humidity-rich locations. You'll be thirstier than you think you should be for the level of effort you think you're putting out and the amount of time you've been exerting yourself. At home, I rarely get thirsty on a run, even on a long run. In Arizona, I'm longing for water after a mile or two of easy going. Maybe if I stayed longer than a week in such places, my body would adjust, but as a visitor, I'm more water dependent than usual. We started up the trail with 3 or 4 backpacks amongst us. Mine had 7 extra bottles of water in it. Another guy, a fairly experienced hiker from Colorado, had about the same number of bottles in his pack. My wife had all our salty snacks in her small pack, which we planned to share, and I'm not sure what was in the other. I never saw. No one died. A couple turned back shortly after the trail got steeper. The Colorado guy turned back with them. He gave me 3 bottles, and I gave him my empties. One guy stopped about halfway up. He was struggling. I left a fresh bottle with him and maybe some Propel. 6 more bottles and several electrolyte doses were given out in the time it took to summit and return to the trailhead. The guy who'd sat down on a rock earlier, he rejoined us. I ended the hike with 1 bottle to spare in my pack. I see what happened as a picture of the church when it's at its best. Godly elders showing the younger by example how to be faithful to God over the long haul. Those more experienced believers bearing with those new to the faith. The younger in the gathering finding a safe place to ask questions and make mistakes. All of them together, pursuing God's ways, supporting each other whether in success and victory or false starts and stumbles. No arrogance or jockeying for position, no belittling or backbiting, no battles over debatable issues. Here are a couple of passages which show the way. First, there's Galatians 6, 1-5. Brothers and sisters, if someone is caught in a sin, you who live by the Spirit should restore that person gently. But watch yourselves, or you also may be tempted. Carry each other's burdens, and in this way you will fulfill the law of Christ. If anyone thinks they are something when they are not, they deceive themselves. Each one should test their own actions, then they can take pride in themselves alone without comparing themselves to someone else, for each one should carry their own load. Interesting, isn't it, that Paul calls upon believers to carry the burdens of others and to carry their own load. Judgment has no place in the church, but only careful, Spirit-led accountability with help as the purpose. And then there's this from Philippians 2, 1-4. Therefore, if you have any encouragement from being united with Christ, if any comfort from his love, if any common sharing in the Spirit, if any tenderness and compassion, then make my joy complete by being like-minded, having the same love, being one in spirit and of one mind. Do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit. Rather, in humility, value others above yourselves, not looking to your own interests, but each of you to the interests of others. Selfishness, self-seeking, personal ambition, all out of place in the kingdom. The call is to look out for the interests of others and think of them highly, as brothers and sisters who can hear from and obey God as the Spirit leads. And unity, everyone moving forward together, that's the intended, the hoped-for result. How refreshing it is when this is the way God's children live. What role do you have to play in your corner of the kingdom? How can you look to the interests of others, or hold a fellow believer accountable, or receive correction in a godly manner? I'm guessing there's room for growth in your life as there is in mine. God help us all to carry each other's burdens and receive the aid of those more mature or more in tune with you. And if you're ever out on a hike in the desert, bear the burden of extra water for those who don't know to bring it. Be the one who supports friends and strangers alike and keeps everybody alive. Hand out water with joy and drink enough yourself.
Oh no, it's sad, I know we've come to the end of the show.
See you next time.